Kitco Mining Special Coverage of PDAC is brought to you by Gold Mining, Uranium Energy Corps, and Uranium Royalty Corps.
Hello and welcome to Kitco Mining with me, Paul Harris, here at the 2025 Prospectors and Developers Association Conference in Toronto in Canada. This is our 15th year here and we have an exciting gold discovery to talk about today. Gold discoveries are exciting investor interest, and joining me to talk about one of those is Ari Sussman, Executive Chair of Collective Mining. Ari, welcome back to Kitco.
Paul, always a pleasure to see you, and I love to see the buzz that's going on the floor behind us.
I don't know if it comes across on the video, but yeah, there is quite a buzz. I can sort of barely hear you, but hopefully I'll be able to hear your answers and respond to your comments. Now, you continue to make discoveries at your Guayabales project in Caldas in Colombia. What is it that makes Guayabales such a rich target for mineral exploration?
Well, I think we all need to thank Mother Nature. Let's start there. But, you know, in more scientific terms, you know, Guayabales has been blessed with multiple deposits overprinting each other, and all of that associated, luckily, with great metallurgy. So, you know, it's a pore-free district, which includes Ari Mining's Marmato mine next door to us. And the porphyries have then been overprinted by late-stage veins, and then, as you note, we have a new discovery at the depth of the Apollo discovery called Ramp Zone, which is a brand new fluid, a brand new discovery, totally unrelated to anything else. It's more like a reduced intrusion related gold system.
Now, you recently announced your best drill hit to date, 106.35 meters, grading 9.05 grams per ton of gold equivalent at Apollo. As you mentioned, you're hitting Apollo at depth in what you're now calling the ramp zone. So it seems you still haven't found the edges yet after what, about 2 years of drilling?
Yeah, look, we have a goal. Don't do a resource until we find the end of it. And the goal is to take the existing internal model, upgrade it in terms of its grade, hence size or ounces, and continue to touch this brand new discovery at ramp zone and depth and expand it, okay? And look, we have a lofty goal as a company. I've mentioned to you before. Our hope is that we can ultimately find more than 10 million ounces of gold here. Right, couple that with our neighbor next door has almost a 9 million ounce resource, and you're looking at a giant camp. So we're going to continue to pound hard, both at depth, along strike, and within the existing wireframes, in the hopes that we get there sometime towards late 2026.
Now, over with Collective and your prior company, Continental Gold, I think it's fair to say you were very savvy with some of your financial raises. You were able to access a lot of money, obviously put it to work to good effect. You did your last raise in October last year, 46 million Canadian. Your share price recently hit an all-time high of $9 Canadian per share. You're not tempted to do another big raise and have a lot of runway to continue that exploration effort?
So we obliged to our investors in the last round that we're going to set out on the goals and do a lot of this drilling, and we're going to continue to do that. We don't need cash. I mean, we're almost 38 million US dollars in the bank today. Okay, so we're fully funded for 2025, and we're not fully funded, but we're close to funded for 2026. So ultimately, we will need more money, but I think we can continue to drive shareholder and share price value with the drill bit. And also, as I think I've mentioned to you before as well, you know, these cycles, right? I mean, you know, we had everyone talking about bull market for the last 8 years, but the reality is if you look at the cycles for the equities, the gold producers entered a bull market in late 2022, and the non-producers like us only started a bull market in the summer of 2024. What do we know historically? These cycles last 8 to 12 years. Okay, so we're in the first year of a very long bull market. It will have giant corrections along the way, but I think there's a lot more room for these things to move, you know, and I think we're going to be able to finance at even more attractive terms if we continue to execute with the drill bit.
Okay, now you've mentioned your neighbor Aris Mining a couple of times. Apollo's Deep, the drill hits there are at about the same elevation as the top of Aris Mining's Marmato Deep development project, which they're building at the moment. That's about 1.75 kilometers away if you were to construct a tunnel from one to the other. Marmato Deep has dimensions of about 950 meters by 350 meters by 750 meters. Did you have an idea of what Apollo's dimensions are shaping up to be?
No. Okay, so what I can tell you, we only have assay results for 4 holes. Okay, one is an outlier far away, and then we have 3 relatively close. So the first step is to try and build a 3D model, understand the geometry. But if you take our known dimensions, okay, and assume it connects, we already have strike potential of 480 meters, right? The mineralized structure, not the zone, but the mineralized structure is looking like around 50 meters true width, and we have it over about 200 or 225 vertical meters. It's completely open. The difference between us and Marmato Deeps so far is our grade is way higher. Okay, I mean, Marmato Deeps is a 6.2 million ounce resource at around 2.5 grams per ton gold. You know, if you look at the 4 holes that have announced assays, we've drilled multiple hits at 50 meters at north of 8 grams, including 15 to 20 meters at 20 grams within. We have better grade for a couple of reasons. One, the host rock is a breccia. It's more porous, more space for fluids to get trapped. Secondly, our ramp zone is still overprinted by those late-stage porphyry veins that start right at the top of Apollo. For some reason at Marmato Deeps, they lose those porphyry veins over their Marmato Deeps deposit. And thirdly, we have a silver component, which we don't quite understand yet at the ramp zone, that does not exist at Marmato Deeps. They don't have any silver, it's just gold. So that factor is really exciting. So look, let's dream, okay? If we have the same dimensions, 350 meters width, you know, across the structure by 750 meters vertical, which, by the way, Marmato Deeps is still open at depth. They got 6 million ounces. At our grade profile, it's a hell of a lot more than 6 million ounces. So you can see that, you know, maybe Apollo is going to get very, very big if we continue to hit. I like it. And let me throw something to you that you don't know, which is very interesting. So we have figured out the why we have this ramp zone below Apollo. Now we need to understand the chemistry, how it happened. So we have discovered, outside of the breccia, an uneconomic nickel, copper, cobalt, magnesium ultramafic deposit. Okay? We haven't found economic grades, and I'm not here to tell anybody that. I think we will, okay? However, what is clearly causing ramp to exist is when an intrusion, so a porphyry, a breccia, a later rock busts through that ultramafic. That is the chemistry needed for this ramp, and for some reason it's precipitating high grades of gold, and we now need to understand why. Why do we call it reduced? It's a different fluid than the top. It's gold with minor bismuth and tellurium. Okay, so think snowline. That is exactly what snowline is, and Marmato Deeps. Okay, so pretty interesting, and I'll bet you any amount of money that if we were to get into the data room of Aris Mining and look at Marmato Deeps and they have the data, they're going to have the same thing, intruded ultramafic rock with a porphyry.
So it sounds like you've got a lot of exploration questions still to answer. You've got a very big aggressive drilling program this year. I think, was it 40,000 meters? 60,000 meters. Where do you want to advance the project to by the end of the year?
We want to understand ramp. We want to test the X and tower target. Tower drilling is brand new. It's going to start drilling in the next 2 weeks, by the way. We want to understand our San Antonio project better. We're in a 3,000 meter program on our second hole right now. Looks potentially interesting visually. And look, if we can start to put an envelope around what this ultimate size will be, it will drive a bigger and more aggressive 2026 program, which will then be followed by a resource estimate and related studies. Okay.
You've also you mentioned some of the other mineral potential that may be there, but a year or two ago you announced that you found the critical mineral tungsten. Let's talk about that a little bit. Tungsten is trending at the moment since China implemented export restrictions at the start of the year. To find out more about that specifically, viewers should see the video interview I did with Almonte Industries about a month ago, which is available on our YouTube channel. Ari, I recall that in November 2023 you reported a tungsten hit at Apollo. That obviously could be another facet to the project. Have you followed up on that? What's the plan there?
So let me say this to the viewers, stay tuned. We are going to start drilling the tungsten zone. Now, the zone of tungsten exists from surface to only about 150 meters depth, and then it's not part of Apollo anymore. We think the reason it's there is chemistry between the porphyry, the brecciated porphyry, and the schist country rock beside it. I'm not a firm believer of a primary tungsten mine going into production, but in our case, it's a byproduct, and the weighted average of the drill holes into the tungsten zone is around 0.3%. I haven't looked in the last few weeks, but when I last paid attention to tungsten, it was trading at about 4 times the price of copper. So if you assume that you have 100% recovery rates, which we won't, that's 1.2% copper equivalent. Okay, so it's high grade. Okay, it is relevant, and when one thinks about going to permit a mine here, and you're going to be mining the first ever tungsten in Colombia, it should go very well, because tungsten is seriously important right now, and we know China has shut off the spigots for supply to the rest of the world.
Okay. You've received interest from bigger companies. Agnico Eagle Mines made a strategic investment in the company. How much of Collective does Agnico Eagle own, and why did they initially keep that sort of secret?
Well, okay, so remember, when you're a Canadian-listed company, there's no obligation to disclose a sub 10% shareholder. Agnico can own up to 9.9% of the company. And that's a good number to have them at, because, we don't want them getting too large, because it might kill future competitive tension if we go to an asset sale or a company sale. So the reason it got disclosed was because we then listed on the New York Stock Exchange, again under the symbol CNL, and they have a different threshold for disclosure. So instead of 10%, it's 5% in the United States. And so it got made public. Look, when we financed with Agnico Eagle, it was a premium deal in a very bad market. So let's talk about how fast markets turn. So 1 year ago, almost today, I think it was last week, a year ago, we did the financing with the secret strategic, which ended up being disclosed as Agnico. If we would have done an equity deal at that point, our share price would have been crushed 30% on the announcement of a financing. Instead, we got a very nice premium, and they're an excellent shareholder. I mean, they really are a good shareholder. And you know what's great about majors? I say this to everyone, the really big ones. It's like you have a home, and you have a pretty poor toolbox in your garage, and someone goes and spends $1 million and puts the greatest toolbox in the world into your garage, and you get to use all those tools. That is what having this big brother major is like. They've got every tool imaginable, and it's our goal to use those tools to better our advancement. We have a very close relationship with the company, and we're fortunate to have them.
So, well, congratulations there. As I mentioned a moment ago, you've been very successful raising large sums of money over the years, but I'd like to sort of reflect on that point you've just made about a year ago and how different things are today. What are some of the perhaps the bigger trends you've seen in junior financing over the years?
So, look, I went to New York a few weeks back, and I did a combination of institutional and retail marketing, and there's a change. Okay, my retail presentations were oversold. They were overflowing out of the rooms, and I was getting meetings with generalist investors for the first time with Collective. I mean, people, new ones or ones that I haven't seen since Continental Gold days many moons ago, and they aren't buying Collective Minings yet, but they're now starting to learn, and they're seeing the enormous margin expansion that's going on in the production end of the business and getting interested. So the trend is our friend. I think we got a long way to go here, and we're going to see these financings grow in size and broaden out big time. In fact, this is the most unusual cycle. It's the first time I've ever seen resource specialized funds not leading it. They don't have inflows. The flows are into generalist funds, and that who is picking up the mantle and who's going to take this space forward.
I mean, people talk about a scarcity of funds in Canada for junior exploration. Can you talk us through your motivation to list on the New York Stock Exchange?
80% of global capital in stock markets is in the United States. How do you not list there and access it? When you go into the United States and you say, hi, we're listed in Canada, majority of individuals say, how do I buy Canada? It's too complicated, pass. Okay, I'm the firmest believer that every company should US list. Right, it's changed drastically over the last 10 years, right? And so that's where you need to be. The money is there, chase the money, and that trend is only going to continue.
Okay, now you sold your previous project in Colombia for about $2 billion Canadian. Apollo looks like an obvious consolidation candidate with Marmato. You've got a big mining company involved with Agnico Eagle Mine. You mentioned that at some point in the future there could be resource, but will you get there, or would the thing be to sell pre-resource?
Paul, very hard to answer that question. Okay, look, we're going ahead like we're going to build a mine, and we have the team to do it. We have a very talented team, but obviously, if the right price comes along, we will sell. In general terms, not talking about our company, I think the M&A cycle right now is still in the early phases where producers are buying producers. And that will eventually evolve into producers buying high-quality projects. Our phones and our doors are open if that comes. I don't know if it'll be Agnico or if it's someone else. I don't care. If someone wants to buy us for the right price, they will. But your point, you mentioned that we were bought for $2 billion at Continental Gold. Gold price was more than $1,000 lower than it is today, and margins have expanded. I'm a believer that the M&A of this cycle, if you get it right, we're looking at numbers between $2 and $5 billion, not $500 million to $2 billion. And if we're going to be in it, let's get that price.
Okay, great stuff. You've got a lot going on. What are some of the key milestones for the company this year?
In the words of Donald Trump, the new president of the United States, drill, baby, drill. 60,000 meters. You're going to see us we're hitting the ground hard. We have 7 rigs today, going to 8 before the end of March. That's where we'll max out for the year. Going to be a lot of information. You're going to see, obviously, drilling at Apollo, drilling at Trap, which is underway. The San Antonio project, maybe we'll get lucky. We'll need some luck because it's early stage. I mentioned Tower Target's about to get drilled. It's sitting right beside Apollo and has this nickel ultramafic potentially going right under it. So maybe there's ramp-style mineralization there. We'll find out. And the X Target. So that you're going to see a lot of action on the ground.
Well, exciting times. Ari Sussman, many thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Paul. It's good as always to see you.
And we have a lot more to come from the 2025 Prospectors and Developers Association Conference here in Toronto in Canada. So hit that subscribe button. I'm Paul Harris, and this is Kitco Mining.
Kitco Mining special coverage of PDAC is brought to you by Gold Mining, Uranium Energy Corps, and Uranium Royalty Corps.